How about that shirt?
I love
Welcome back to
shirt.
the Just Fantasy Baseball podcast. My name is Rami, Lavi. That is Vince Damato. And let's jump right into it, Vince. Who do you think won the debate on Thursday night?
Oh,
No,
I
just
mean,
kidding. Don't answer that question.
the American people lost. That's all I know. That's all I could say. No.
Yes. 2 people lost, and about every single person in this country and anyone who watched it also lost. So we're all losers in that. But I am a winner. I secured this. If you're not watching this, you should be. Mets basketball jersey. It was worth it. I was at the Mets game today. I sat through that rain delay. And big shout out to, I don't remember the names, but the kind people who brought us into their suite during the 2-hour rain delay and had us, I put down 2 milkshakes and about 7 beers in those 2 hours. It was phenomenal. I also had some spiked Arnold Palmer with tequila, and we're feeling good. I drove home. So, woo, I made it. Here we are. Just kidding. I didn't drive. I took the train to my parked car and then drove home. But still, let's talk about some fantasy baseball. I have notes from today. And number one, your guy. First of all, I met Joey Loperfido today. I didn't want to I was standing literally 2 feet from him. And I just gone over and introduced myself. And he was talking to I was there hours before the game because I wanted to get the free shirt, right? The free jersey. So, and I go over to Joey, I meet him, and then I want to take a picture for you because I know you love Joey Loperfido, but I didn't want to be too obvious about it. So I pretended I was taking a picture of the giant scoreboard. I'm like, hey, look, Joey's at the bottom, but I hope you got the picture.
I did. Yeah, I did.
All right. I hope that works. But speaking of your guys.
And you met him, right? Or no?
No, I did. Yeah, I went over, I shook his hand, and he wasn't
cool.
a big dude. I was surprised, like a little guy.
I don't know size metrics, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, you could look that up. So I said that to someone today after I met Joey, and he's like, well, you're big, Rami. So of course, to you, he might not be big. I'm used to being
6'3", 220, according to ESPN.
Okay, so I'm 6'1", 6'2", also 220-ish. So
okay.
That it makes
you were expecting Aaron Judge maybe because of how
not
great
really.
He is.
I was just expecting. I'm used to when I was a kid and I met Derek Jeter,
right?
And he looked huge. Mm-hmm. And now probably if I met Derek Jeter, we'd probably be around the same size. You know what I mean? So I forget that I grew up since then. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So sometimes I still look at myself as, I don't know, it's a weird thing. But yeah, because I was standing next to someone, so he's like, dude, I'm 5'10" and you're towering over me. He's like, what do you think? And I'm out.
Jeter's 6'3". Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jeter said he is. But it's still I'm 6'1", maybe and a half. You know what I mean? I'm not a full 6'2" for sure. So, but your other guy, speaking of your guys, Wyatt Langford.
Oh yeah.
How about that? Hit for the cycle tonight on Sunday Night Baseball, the first Sunday Night Baseball cycle, which, I mean, come on, who cares? It's it's the time of day we're noting that now. But it's still really cool. And they beat the Orioles. So a big game for the Rangers, who that division, the Astros, they're coming on right now. Mm-hmm. And your guy, Wyatt Langford, who you've been talking about from day one of this show, looking pretty good for you.
Yeah, he was my lock of the week for a reason. I wore this Texas Rangers hat for a reason. I mean, all over Wyatt Langford. Love him. He's you're going to see a lot of highlights in the future.
Oh yeah. Another guy, and this is a low light, is Bryce Harper, who hurt his. I don't think it's as bad as we initially thought. Did you see the play when it happened?
I have not, but
Bryce is on my team, so he grounded out. And what you love about Bryce is he's going to run his ass off, mm-hmm. And he was running hard to first to try and beat out a play to, at the end of the game was the last out. And he just tripped up over the bag and came up lame. And it looked like one of those just awful ACL, immediately, hyperextended knee situation. They reported it as a hamstring, and then they weren't sure if he was going to go on the IL. Then he did in the end. So the fact that they weren't sure if he was going to even go on the IL in the first place has me believe that maybe it's better than we think. But you never know with these types of things. And he was on my team. And, with Bryce, he's another one of those guys who he's a little low key, but misses a lot of time every year. Or not a lot, but at least some time every year. So it's another one of those scenarios where for me, Bryce is missing time again, and it's tough to replace him. I'm looking at a guy like Brandon Marsh to pick up some of the slack in Philadelphia, but if there's someone else you're thinking of, who do you think can pick up some of the slack while Bryce is out?
Yeah, I think Brandon Marsh is a good one. I'm thinking on fantasy terms. I got some guys that could maybe help you out in the waiver wire that could, if you got Bryce Harper in your league, that could help you out. But yeah, Brandon Marsh is a good one. I'm not sure, to be honest. I hadn't really thought that question through. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, so that's one. Juan Soto's a weird one today. He hurts himself, is not in the lineup yesterday, is out of the lineup today. And then 5 minutes before game time, the Yankees insert him. He gets a single in the first, and he looks great all game. But the bigger story, so I assume he's healthy. You know what I mean? He was supposed to have a CT scan tomorrow. I don't even know if you do that anymore. I guess you still do it, but he played. And this is a guy who plays 162 generally, so I'm not shocked that he did. Some of this Aaron Judge stuff is ridiculous. I want to read some stats to you. I don't know if you're aware of this. So I want to pull them up for you. First of all, Yankees with 80 RBIs before July 1st. 1926 Babe Ruth, 1927 Lou Gehrig, 1930 Lou Gehrig, and 2024 Aaron Judge. Here's another one. Aaron Judge has 31 home runs and 83 RBIs in 84 games this year. In 2021, Freddie Freeman, pretty much regarded as the game's best first baseman, right? Had 31 home runs and 83 RBIs in 159 games. So what Aaron Judge has done in a half a season this year, Freddie Freeman did in an entire season. And to take it a step further, Aaron Judge is batting .313 with 31 home runs, 82 RBIs, and has a 5.9 B-WAR, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Harper, in his entire 2021 MVP season, he was the most valuable player in the National League. He batted .309 with 35 home runs, so lower batting average, only 4 more home runs, 84 RBIs, so only 2 more RBIs. I think only 1 more because Judge ended up getting to 83 today. And a 5.9, the same B-WAR. What Aaron Judge has done in a half a season this year is as good as 2 of the best players in the league's entire seasons. It's insane.
Well, and the insane thing too is that he didn't start off like this. Remember, there was a part where people were booing him. Yeah, people were booing him for a little while, and I remember he was frustrated. And we knew that he was capable of. I don't know if we knew he was capable of this, but it's something. It's something else.
When you think of the greatest players that we've been privileged to watch, and we've probably seen the back end of, we're a little younger, we've seen the back end of Griffey Jr., but we've seen some great players in our lifetimes. I mean, Mike Trout, Ohtani. Is there anyone? The dude plays center field. He steals bases. He runs well. And just the way when you watch his at-bats, the prolific hitter he is, he's batting .313. This is not like he's a low average, a swing for the fences guy. He is an every single at-bat, other than Barry Bonds in 07 and A-Rod in 07, this is the greatest hitter I've ever seen.
Yeah, Barry Bonds was the first one that came to my mind with just unbelievable hitters. But Aaron Judge definitely feels like he has eclipsed almost every other offense. And I think it's just the stretch, right? If we're going to talk entire seasons, I want to see something like this. Is he going to get to 150 RBIs or something? I want to see something.
We saw it in 22. We really did.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, this is up there. This is certainly one of the best performances that I've ever seen in my lifetime.
If he gets to 60 for a second time in 3 years, at that point you're starting. And last year he was on pace for it if he doesn't get hurt. So when you look at the last 3 years of Aaron Judge, to me, I can't think of a stretch. Again, I was very young. I saw the end of Bonds. I think A-Rod from 03 to 2009 was the greatest hit. That was to me, and I'm a Yankee fan. I was watching growing up on a daily basis. That was the greatest run. A-Rod's 07 season before the 2022 Judge season, the 2000 and still even after, just because I had a different feeling about it because I was a kid. The 2007 A-Rod season is the greatest offensive season I could remember. But what Judge is doing right now, it's almost like you expect. If you bet at Judge anytime home run every single game this year, you'd be up a lot of money right now. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Are you still trading him in fantasy, or what's your? Do you think he's fragile, or is he? Is this you can't trade untradeable territory here?
He's untradeable. He's untradeable. I mean,
what do you get for him?
It's there's nothing that's worth it. Meaning, if you're giving me an ace and a number one offensive player,
Scooble and Juan Soto.
Yeah, then I probably do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you're giving me, like really crazy, like if you're giving me Zach Wheeler and Shohei Ohtani, then I do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, okay. But I mean,
yeah, you're not going to find a trade like that.
No. You're not. Yeah, there's no trade that's going to be worth it. And I think even selling high, there's no high enough in case he stays healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like as I don't know. And I'm wearing the Griffey shirt. That
I saw. I like that. That's a cool shirt. I almost got one of those. I like those. Those are cool.
This
shirts.
is a good one, right? Yeah, the other day I was wearing the Vince Scully one, which is just the microphone with the Vin on it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get to a couple other things. And let's start with waiver wire pickups because I'm pretty mad about my first one. Of course, I've been telling you to pick him up, pick him up, pick him up, pick him up. The moment I drop, I finally was like, I've had enough. I can't. I've been yelling about picking this guy up, and like he's done nothing. I dropped him. Someone else picked him up. He's been incredible. That's Jared Kelenic. Do you know what Jared Kelenic's numbers look like over the last? I mean, it's stupid to look at it. He was 0 for 4 today, but prior to that, 433 on base in the last week, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, a stolen base, and 4 runs scored. This is what I was waiting for from this guy, and he never did it while he was on my team. And then the second I cut him, boom.
That's how it goes. Unfortunately, right? That's the worst. Yeah. I will mention too, and he's not really on my waiver wire list because chances are this guy's already gone. If you've been following baseball at all, I don't know if you saw this call up. James Wood is getting the call up.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
One of the top prospects, if not the top prospect for some people in all of baseball. We'll be getting the call up and starting on Monday for the Washington Nationals. So go check your waiver wire. I don't recommend doing what I did. And Rami, seriously, don't do this pretty much in any league ever. But 112-team league that I'm in, someone dropped him on Thursday. And typically in this league, it's all free agents, so you can pick up anyone at any time. But once someone is dropped, they go on waivers for 2-3 days. He dropped James Wood. This other guy dropped James Wood, and then the next day, we realized, he's getting the call up. So it was a bidding war. I ended up bidding 100% of my fab because I've never used my fab in that league. Don't ever spend 100% of your fab on one guy.
Maybe in baseball it's different. I'm actually on the other spectrum of that. Like, if there's a guy who's like in football, I know. Like, I'm trying to think who was the running back this year. There was one running back who like just popped off the first 3 weeks, and I was like, oh wait, this isn't fake. This is real. And it happens every year with a running back, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, this guy's going to be legit for this year. And somebody used 100% of their fab on it, and it just made sense.
Yeah, and football I think is a little bit different.
And by the way, he was part of the Juan Soto deal, right? Correct. Yeah.
So again, I mean, it was one of those situations. We don't really use a lot of fab in that league anyways. So I just had it and I'm like, you know what? I can't take it with me. My season's on the brink. This is a keeper league. So maybe I can use him as trade bait. Someone might want to keep him. I just want James Wood there. And I don't know if you saw, I got James Wood in our league too, our weekly league. So
I didn't. I know
for some of that. So my first waiver wire pickup is a former Yankee, one of, I think, hopefully a fan favorite, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa.
He's on my list.
He's on your list. All right. If you want to talk about him, I do have 2 other guys that I can mention as well.
No, I have other guys as well, but I'll talk about IKF for a second. You can then take it. I mean, okay, first of all, eligibility. We talk about this all the time. 3 infield positions and the outfield. Shortstop, second base, third base, outfield. He scored 10 runs just in the last week, right? It feels like in the last, I don't know, 3 days against the Yankees, he scored 10 runs in that 4-game series. So he has a home run, 2 RBIs, 500 on base. Over the last 2 weeks, his on base is 471. So, he's not a major power hitter. Has only 7 home runs on the season. He's actually, for him, 33 RBIs is not bad. But he's getting on and scoring a ton, and he's getting on at this rate. A guy who's eligible at every position. When we talk about trying to fill needs and guys who are hurt, that's a guy right there who, hey, I have an injury at second. I have an injury at short. I have an injury at outfield. I can just move this guy around, be my utility guy, play everywhere. And at least for now, he's not, meaning he's helping you in at least 2 categories. When you look at on base and runs, he's going to help you in those categories, and he's not going to hurt you in RBIs and home runs. So he's not stealing as many bases as you'd like, only 3 on the season for a guy who stole 15 last year, but in a limited role with the Yankees. It wasn't like he was a full-time starter with the Yankees last year, and he still stole 15. So maybe a little bit, a few more steals would be nice from him. But overall, got to be thrilled with what you're getting from Isaiah Kiner-Falefa.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's kind of weird. 3 of his home runs, 3 of his 7 have come just in the last week. So, don't expect the power surge to continue. He's got, he's not a power guy, but you're absolutely right. In average and OBP and runs scored, those types of stats, he's absolutely going to help you. So, and eligibility, flexibility, right? You need that.
Huge, especially this time of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you are looking for a first base replacement for Bryce Harper, or if you've just kind of like I have been in some leagues where, maybe I missed on CES or something like that. This guy, I was all over him in the beginning of the year, this first guy here, and he kind of let me down throughout the month of May. He had a really bad month of May. He started off hot, bad May, but in June, he's really picked it up. He's still only rostered in 66% of leagues, and that's Justin Turner for the Toronto Blue Jays. Again,
Blue Jays, their offense is getting hot.
Yeah. So in the month of June, Justin Turner's hitting .339 with a .474 on base percentage. He's not getting to a lot of power, just 1 home run. But again, at the same time, if you're looking for a corner infield spot, or you just need, a first base hole filled, Justin Turner, it looks like he, all of his underlying stuff looks, good. His plate discipline metrics are actually phenomenal. Striking out 16% of the time, but he's walking 13% of the time, like just phenomenal plate discipline. His batted ball metrics are okay. He's not hitting the ball super hard, but at the same time, he's a professional, right? We've seen him do this for years. 39 years old. So I'm not expecting huge power numbers or some sort of power surge, but at the same time, I absolutely think this 300 batting average is legit. He's not going to hit 300 for the rest of the year, maybe, but 298 in April, May, 339 in June. He absolutely could float around that. And that's going to be valuable. He's hitting 4th for this Toronto Blue Jays team as they start to heat up a little bit, which we've seen, those runs and RBIs could tick up. So Justin Turner certainly should be on your radar for pickups this week.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I wish he did hit a little bit more for power. That's why I looked at him. I considered him for my MVP of the week, and I was like, 0 home runs. I mean, he's batting like his on base was like 700 for the week. A home run wouldn't kill him. So that's why I didn't end up going there. But I agree, great pickup because he's not rostered in a ton of leagues, and similar to IKF, only flip the runs and the RBIs. He'll get you the RBIs. He's giving you the production because he's batting 4th, like you mentioned, in that lineup. Here's a little bit of an interesting one, a little bit different than the ones you mentioned. And it's one that I think you'll like, but you may disagree because the situation. You're closer to the situation.
Sure.
You'll see what I'm saying in a second. And that's Jorge Lopez. Consistent, reliable saves are hard to come by. Jorge Lopez now has proven in the last 2 games that he's good. I mean, we know that. The closer situation there has been a mess all year long. Is this a guy who can slide into the closer role? We've seen him be a dominant closer in the past, specifically 2022 at the Orioles, or I forget if it was 21 or 22. I think it was 22, right, with the Orioles. I could see it. I could see this guy becoming and just taking that closer role. I picked him up because I think he's going to be the closer for this team. And there you go, saves and a dominant reliever.
Yeah, I still think I don't know why. Maybe, because Neris came in and on Saturday. I think it's also the Cubs just aren't good right now. Like, they're horrible. They're atrocious. They're one of the worst teams in baseball.
I know, but the thing about bad teams is bad teams play a lot of close games.
And there's still saves to be had. So I think that's a good call out. I think Jorge Lopez should absolutely be on people's radar. No, I think that's a great call out because, a lot of people probably wrote him off when the Mets, released him or whatever, that
last time I was at the Met game was before today, was when he threw the glove over the dugout.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's a good call. I have nothing against it. I hope it works out because we thought Adbert Alzolay was going to be the guy, and we haven't heard his name in 2 months. So,
Yep.
it's
I
kind
mean,
of
we've
weird
heard his
how,
name, just not positively.
yeah, yeah.
You know what's funny? The
Hmm.
last time I was at a Met game was the last time I think they lost a series, and then today they lose ultimately. I wasn't there when they lost; it was tied when I left. So don't blame me. Don't blame me. You know what I mean?
Has the grimace effect worn off then? Or is it done?
It's not grimace right now. I'm all about. Oh my god, have you heard?
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, Jose
Dude,
Iglesias,
that
right? Yeah.
song is lit. That's the song of the summer. That's incredible.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. All right, we'll
Meanwhile, if you need Ryan, he's listening to that song right now. You know, he's watching that video Friday night on loop.
I do have one more because I had IKF and I wanted to,
Please go ahead.
I figured. Carlos Santana, another first base, an old first base guy who's just been getting the job done. If you're again looking for a corner infield and Justin Turner's picked up, or vice versa, Carlos Santana's picked up. If you are Rami, I know you said you're looking for a little more power. He's got a little more power. He's got 12 home runs on the year, and he's been consistent with the power. He's got 4 home runs in every, April, March, if you combine those.
His
And then
last
May,
month, in his last month,
June.
5. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 home runs. So, and June was a hot month for him too. He hit 333 over the month of June, 16 RBIs. Twins are a hot team right now. The Twins offense is it's a good offense. So I'm certainly going and picking up Carlos Santana if I need that spot filled. Again, Bryce Harper going down, Justin Turner and Carlos Santana are 2 great alternatives on the waiver wire.
I'm actually frustrated. Santana is rostered in my league. I oftentimes, when you talk, I listen. And
Okay.
you know how I know this? Because people will say something about a certain player. And I'm like, no. And I'll like rattle off, this is what he's been doing the last month. He was really good early in the season. And I'll give him this whole spiel, and people look it up and be like, yeah, you're right. You're right on about that. I'm like, man, something's clicking. But I try, and I, especially now that I know the rest of my league is listening to you, when you say something, I try and, act right away. And I just looked up Santana, and he's unfortunately rostered in my league. He's
66%, so, or
40% in 40 in Yahoo league. So
yeah, sure.
I'm trying to pick him up if I can. I could definitely use, obviously, I'm trying to replace Harper right now. There's no replacing him. I get it, but I'm trying to. And the problem was, the most annoying part was I was out of waiver. I was out of pickups. I used my 6 roster pickups for the week.
Sure.
And so I basically played the whole weekend down a man. So it was kind of rough, but I went from leading 8-1, 8-1-1 to, I think I'm going to win the week like 6-3-1, which is still like a winning week, but like I was dominating. And I had rough starts today. I had Gosman, who wasn't great. I had Severino, who wasn't great. I just had a bad day today in general. Luis Castillo was not great. Kyle Hendricks, my God. So just,
I told you to be careful with Kyle Hendricks.
I know, but he wasn't hurting me all that much. Whatever. It was a rough Sunday. It was a rough weekend overall for your boy. But hopefully next week will be better. And it's not a losing week. You know what I mean? Just positive momentum. Just keep having winning weeks. It doesn't matter, even if it's a small margin. How about some pitchers to stream? You got something for me?
I do, and I'm going to try to pick maybe some of these guys up as we talk, because I realized I haven't picked them up for this week.
I have 3, but I can't pick them up till I guess like 4 a.m. tonight.
Well, if you have 3, you should go first, because I have 2. So go ahead. Who do you got?
The number one guy, and this is like an intricate thing. I was sitting with one of the coaches today for Alex Bregman has a personal hitting coach, a hitting instructor, I guess, that he works with, who comes and travels to a lot of games. And he told us today, this is like a 2-hour rain delay, right? And he's telling me during the rain delay, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to Toronto, but they already told the Astros. Alex was texting him during the rain delay saying they already told him that they're pushing their flight tonight because of the thunderstorms. So it was supposed to pass for a little bit. There was a window for them to finish the game, but it started raining right afterwards. So their flight, I don't know what time they're getting into Toronto, but there's customs, there's all those different things. And they play a 3 p.m. game on Monday. Houston does in Toronto against Yariel Rodriguez, who sucks. But my God, if there's ever a time that he's going to dominate, it's going to be against the team that played an 11-inning, 2.5-hour rain delay game and then had to wait for more thunderstorms to pass so that they could fly to Toronto, sleep for I don't know how long, and then be at the ballpark ready for first pitch at 3 p.m.
I think that's a good one. I mean, again, Yariel hasn't been very good throughout the season. 5.6 ERA.
I
If you're
don't
gonna,
know.
it
I
makes
I
sense. I get
believe
it.
in the human aspect. I
Sure,
believe in the human element. I'm sorry.
sure. No, and I think that's a good thing because I think a lot of times too, and I get caught up into it, right? Is we just try to focus on okay, the best numbers. What's the best matchups for
Mhm.
the numbers? And sometimes that's not always the best case. So I'm not going to start it, but if you go ahead and if I miss the boat on it, good for you. Good for you, Rami.
I put it this way. I don't know if I'll start Yariel. I am betting the shit out of Toronto money line tomorrow.
I do have one though. It is a guy who he was recently called up with Patrick Sandoval being out for the year. Jose Soriano missed some time. Zach Plesac has now been sent down to AAA, and that
Mhm.
is Davis Daniel for the Los Angeles Angels. I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of this guy really
Dude,
before I saw his
that
first start.
start, he's already on my roster.
Yeah,
What the F? That
phenomenal. 8 innings pitched for anyone who didn't catch it. His only start was on Thursday against Detroit. 8 innings, 4 hits, no earned runs, 8 strikeouts, no walks, and 99 pitches. He was efficient. He got strikeouts, he got whiffs, didn't allow hard contact, and ultimately Davis Daniel absolutely killed it. And his next start is against Oakland. So absolutely should be streamed almost exclusively, anything bigger than tens, maybe even in tens if you want to really go for it. I will say his AAA numbers this year didn't look great, 5.33 ERA, but he did have a 3.73 FIP. So maybe there was some bad luck kind of going his way. I don't expect him to, be the big pickup. I mean, we just saw Jonathan Cannon, right? Who had the huge start and then went out and absolutely took a shit against Detroit. So, but Davis Daniel is going to be one of the hottest fab pickups this week. Perfect streamer, and I anticipate he's going to shove against Oakland after watching that Detroit start.
well, it's Oakland, so you can assume anyone will. And you mentioned the guy earlier, and you mentioned him last week, so why not go with Jose Soriano, who's going to be making his return against Oakland on Tuesday?
Yeah.
And if you didn't listen to Vince last week and you didn't pick him up, now's the time to pick up Jose Soriano against Oakland, making his return from the IL. I think that is a perfect time for him to start, and he's going to pitch well, like you said. I mean, for all the reasons you talked about on previous episodes, but also because it's against Oakland and, a pretty soft landing spot for him. I don't know if he's going to be fully stretched out or what have you, how that works. But, we just saw a guy, like you said, on the Angels make his first start of the year and throw 99 pitches. So I don't know if the Angels are ultra careful with that. So as long as it's smooth sailing, I would expect Jose Soriano to give you a little bit of length and go deep into that game against Oakland.
I don't know what it is. I mean, I think it's just I love Ron Washington. I think he's got something in the air. Again, I'm not believing in the Angels development really at all, but I think I believe in Ron Washington enough.
They're headed in the right direction. I mean, it was hard to head in the wrong direction any more
Yeah,
than
right.
they were. I mean, the freaking Tungsten O'Doyle tweets with Ohtani and Trout setting records, which, by the way, the Yankees just did that for a month with Trout and Soto and Judge setting records, and the rest of the team did nothing. But, I mean, you move on from those guys essentially. Again, still Trout's amazingly still on the roster, but you essentially move on from those guys and start the rebuild process, and doing it the right way with the right fundamentals and the right, I don't know, mindset of a guy like Ron Washington, who I agree with you is a great baseball mind. I mean, you saw who won the World Series last year. It was Bruce Bochy. It wasn't one of these new aged analytical, like as much as we rely on it for fantasy, as much as I think that you need to marry the two. And if you listen to, maybe not your speed, but Bruce Bochy did have an interview right after they won the World Series with Pardon My Take from Barstool Sports, which is like a fun, what you wouldn't expect them to have a serious baseball conversation. And it wasn't, but there were so many things that he said of just marrying the old school and the new school, and so much that he brought to the Texas Rangers and their world championship. I think former Ranger manager Ron Washington can be doing the same thing out in LA, and it'll be interesting to see how that develops.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I do have one more streamer. If
I do as well.
I
So
think it's your turn.
no,
Is it?
is it my turn? Okay, fine. It's
I
my
don't know, go
turn.
for it.
Let's go with Carlos Carrasco on Tuesday against
Okay.
the Chicago White Sox. Another soft landing spot for a guy who has actually been pitching pretty solidly over the last couple of weeks in two starts. His last two starts, 11 innings, has a win, 10 strikeouts in those 11 innings, and a 2.45 ERA and a 1.09 WHIP. Overall in the season, not the greatest numbers, but again, the season's only been however many starts. He hasn't had a ton of starts. I feel like he's only thrown 70 innings. So I don't know if he was hurt at some point, but again, hasn't been great. A 5.27 ERA, but the Guardians are a really good team. They're at home. They'll probably get you at the very least a win against the White Sox, and the White Sox lineup is horse manure. So I would expect Carlos Carrasco to shove against the White Sox on Tuesday.
I hope you're right, because I hate the White Sox. It also totally was my turn. I'm sorry. I made you go twice. But speaking of the White Sox, my next streamer is on the White Sox, and I told you to stream him once, and it kind of worked out. Not really. Jonathan Cannon for the Chicago White Sox is going against Miami. Again, this is not Jonathan Cannon is a stud because, we've seen it blow up before. This is Miami is one of the worst offenses in baseball. They have the second fewest runs scored behind the Chicago White Sox. And the reason why I like Cannon in this matchup, we saw, I don't know if you remember, but he had this phenomenal start, right? 8 innings pitched. And then he went out and threw 1 inning against Detroit and got absolutely hammered. But then his following start, he went 5 2/3 against Colorado. I'm buying in a little bit that maybe that one start was a fluke, right? And I think it takes some gumption, some moxie, some swag, whatever you want to call it, some balls. It does, right? To give up 8 runs and then go out and almost have a quality start. 5 2/3, we'll call it a quality start, right? Same, it's right there. But I absolutely think Jonathan Cannon versus Miami is a good matchup. He's probably floating in 12-team streamer territory for the rest of the year. But I would definitely not keep him on your lineup after that, because his next start is against Minnesota. I just talked about how, Minnesota's offense is good. So I'm starting him versus Miami and then pretty much dropping him regardless of whatever happens. Anything outside of a perfect game, which I don't expect, right? But Jonathan Cannon on Friday, 7-5 versus Miami. I'm absolutely going to be starting him there.
All right, that brings us to MVP of the week. My MVP of the week is a self-fulfilling prophecy, or just self-serving. I don't know. Anyway, shocking, I know, but he was the number 2 ranked fantasy baseball player across fantasy baseball last week, over this past week. You're smiling at me as if we have the same guy.
No, probably not, but go ahead.
He was only rostered in 40% of leagues, Yahoo leagues, prior to this week. And over the last week, he's now up to 65% rostered in Yahoo leagues. He hit 4 home runs, 11 RBIs, 8 runs scored, and had a 571 on base. And he is still my number 1 sell high candidate. Get rid of him while you can, but he's my MVP of the week, Byron Buxton.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I thought for a second you might go Jonathan India because I talked about him on Wednesday.
I love Jonathan.
He just continues to
and I want Jonathan. I've been telling anyone who will listen, I am dying for the Yankees to trade for Jonathan India.
Wow,
I still think he has a couple of years of control, like arbitration control. Dude, I would kill for Jonathan India. So, yeah. I think he's only 27. Like, he's so young.
Yeah. I will say, so my MVP of the week is a guy that I think you did not like for a good part of the year. You thought, oh, he's a fluke, or maybe he's not going to make it. And that's not why I picked him. I picked it because I think this guy's absolutely legit. That's Seth Lugo for the Kansas City Royals. Don't know if you've been following his stuff, but he had 2 starts this week, which we love the 2 steps. And he threw 6 innings and 6 innings, so a total of 12 innings pitched. In those 12 innings, he ended up with 18 strikeouts, 3 walks, 0 earned runs, and both of them were quality starts. He's just looked phenomenal all year. So far in the year, he's got a 2.29 ERA. He's got 10 wins, a WAR of 3.8. He's just been absolutely phenomenal. Seth Lugo, was it 12th? I want to say I had it written down somewhere. Where'd it go? 7th. He's the 7th best pitcher on the Razzball Player Rater. So absolutely, Seth Lugo has been phenomenal, and this week just continued to solidify the dominance.
Seth Lugo's drop off is going to be the level of
Okay.
Ubaldo Jimenez after he started that All-Star game in Colorado for Colorado, I should say, that one year. And
Yeah,
then
I remember that.
and he threw the no-hitter the first half of the season, and then the second half he was just so bad. I mean, after I can't wait for Seth Lugo to start the All-Star game this year because his drop off in the second half is going to be epic. By the way, I should mention Garrett Cole was back to Garrett Cole. I know it wasn't full Garrett Cole, but 90 pitches, 5 innings, 6 strikeouts, only 1 run. At least resembled Garrett Cole today, and it's nice to see as a fantasy owner who may have been worried after his first 2 starts.
I saw, and maybe this was I was misinformed or something, but was someone warming up in the bullpen after the first inning for him?
During the
Like
first inning, he had
during the
15,
first inning,
15 pitches.
what happened? What was the point of that? Were they
I
worried about an
so I
injury?
was
Or?
at the I was at as you know, I was at the Met
Yeah,
game,
right.
so I saw it on my phone. I don't know why. I don't know if they thought he was hurt or something. It's weird. I have no idea because
Okay.
he was at 15 pitches and they were already warming someone up. So I'm not sure
I
what
thought that
happened
was
there.
weird. I thought that was really weird.
I'm sure they asked Boone about it after the game. This is like one of my only Sundays off the entire summer. Usually I work the Yankee games on Sunday. So I'm sure if I was working the game today, I would have known the exact read because I would have heard Boone's answer. But honestly, I have no idea. I could find out.
No, I was just curious. Yeah.
I could just text the Yankee play-by-play broadcaster right now if I want to, but I won't. He hasn't replied to my last text, so.
Yeah, he's probably like, leave me alone.
No, so I texted him on Friday night because I tagged him in a tweet because Gary Cohen gave him a very nice compliment, and I tagged my friend Emmanuel Bavari, who's one of the voices of the Yankees now that John retired. And I'm very friendly with all 3 guys who have really been. Ricky Ricardo is awesome, and Emmanuel's fantastic, and Justin is as well. But I tagged Emmanuel in this tweet of Gary Cohen complimenting him, but the tweet went viral because he also ripped Michael Kay in the same sentence, who's the Yankee TV play-by-play broadcaster, and I felt bad, so I texted Manny. I was like, dude, sorry I tagged you in that tweet. I know it's like you're probably like had to turn off your mentions because of it, like, so my bad, bro. But I did want him to see the video of Gary, like one of the best, complimenting him. And I also just texted him the video. Anyway, he never responded to that. So I was going to follow up with, hey, I guess there's no internet service or text. I guess you don't get your text messages in Toronto. But I just left it alone. Never reply to your own text with another text, right? So, Emmanuel, if you're listening or watching this, which you could be, sorry, bro.
You may have turned me. I'm looking at some of Seth Lugo's underlying stuff. Okay, maybe it's not 100% there, but I certainly think it's legit. It's kind of a weird Savant page if you
The Ubaldo
get around to
Jimenez
looking at
thing,
it.
I don't know if his underlying. Again, I know Ubaldo Jimenez had crazy like control issues and he walked a ton of people. That was the issue with him. He threw like a ton of pitches early in that season. I think like he threw like 140 pitches in that. Like, remember he had that no hitter. I think he had 7 walks in that game, like something like that. You could look it up.
I do remember
I don't
that.
remember what year that was. Would you say that was like 2011?
I think that sounds about right. Yeah. It's so weird. I got to find out. And again, I probably should know this. I have to find out how they come up with their run values, like the fastball run value, breaking run value, because I don't know where Savant gets those numbers, but he is 96 percentile or above in
2010,
all of
Ubaldo
those.
Jimenez started the
2010.
All-Star game.
Okay. But everything else, I mean, everything else underlying just looks okay. Like nothing stands out. His walk rate's high, or low. But other than that, yeah, Seth Lugo, he's just got the kitchen sink. I don't know what it is.
All right,
but anyways, yeah.
Take your word for it, I guess. All right, what else?
MVP.
Right.
Who's your MVP?
I gave you my MVP. My MVP was Byron Buxton.
So right.
Now it's time for lock of the week. Lock of the week for next week, and I have a guy who you talked about the 2 starts with Seth Lugo just now. Here's a guy who has a 4-game set coming up starting tomorrow. So you're not having a Thursday day off. You're not having a Monday day off. So more opportunity for him to give you production.
It's good. Yeah.
Which we love. And then also he's playing in New York, a 4-game set for the Washington Nationals. And then he goes home and he plays against St. Louis. And over his last 2 weeks, he has a 545 on base percentage, 4 stolen bases, 6 RBIs, 2 home runs, and 10 runs scored. CJ Abrams, who I feel like before the season we had a little bit of a back and forth about him.
Mm-hmm.
And then since then, I feel like we haven't talked about him enough. 13 homers, 14 stolen bases, 42 RBIs, 50 runs scored, 340 on base, and the on base has only been going up month after month. This guy has been one of the best fantasy baseball players and consistently good now for the first few months of this season. CJ Abrams is going to be an MVP of the week caliber. MVP of the week candidate, rather, I should say, next week. He's going to have a great week. 3 at home against St. Louis. They're not good. Home cooking against St. Louis. And then the weekday series, 4 games against the Mets here in New York. I think he's going to rake all week. I think he's going to steal bases. I think he's going to hit home runs at Citi Field. And I think he's going to have a huge week. So I'm going with CJ Abrams as my lock of the week.
I love it. Don't always love CJ Abrams. You know that. We've talked about it. But when the guy's on, the guy's on. And
talking about his
ADP
and a bunch of things. Mm-hmm. I think when you look back at the end of the season, you're going to look at this season and be like, damn, this guy was probably the top 4 shortstop in fantasy baseball.
Well, right. And it's one of those in a roto league or something like, where you're talking about the whole season, that's valuable. But maybe on those weekly.
But he's been consistent this year. That's different. But he's been consistent this year.
His May was horrible, wasn't it? He had a month stretch where he was just absolutely atrocious.
You make me look it up.
Yeah, go look it up while I talk about about my lock of the week. Please. My lock of the week is another guy who he may not play every day because he's a catcher, but his team is going to be playing every day this week, and that's the Houston Astros. And it is the catcher who has been definitely heating up. Yainer Diaz for the Houston Astros has been red hot. Over his last 7 days, he's hit 579. No home runs over the last 2 weeks, but his underlying stuff tells me that the power is going to come. I'm really not worried about it. He's got so much natural power. I think I've seen a lot of stuff that's just people seem to think Yainer Diaz is a power only type bat, or, he's huge power and that's all. He's Cal Raleigh 2.0. And that's absolutely not the case. Yainer Diaz is a phenomenal hitter. He hit 282 last year, and I think he's certainly capable of 270 batting averages or higher. His hard hit rate, he hits the ball hard almost half the time. Good barrel rate. His average exit velo is above 90. And he doesn't strike out. He's got a sub 14% strikeout rate. So I certainly think, he's not going to walk a lot. He's not good for OBP formats, but at the same time, I think the power's coming. He's just got a lot of natural power. And as Houston gets better, those counting stats are going to get better. And I certainly think he's a 270, probably 280, 290 hitter if I'm being realistic, but or honest. I think he's closer to those. But 270 is a floor. And again, I think the power's coming. Yainer Diaz is an absolute lock for me this week.
Yeah, and we've talked so much about the catchers and maybe, being a position where it's hard to find value. You were right, by the way, about CJ Abrams. His May was horrid, but he also was very unlucky, 253 average on balls in play. But yeah, a terrible month. But you look at his on base, he's batting 359 and his on base is 438 with a 615 slugging in the month of June, a 1.054 OPS in June. Has cut it down to only 13 strikeouts. He's walked 8 times, 5 stolen bases, 14 RBIs, 3 home runs, 9 doubles, a triple, and 16 runs scored. Just a fantastic month of June for him in 20 games.
Yeah, his average has been, again, the reasons why I was off him, he's actually kind of really changed. He's hitting the ball harder and he's making better contact. He's got a 283 average. I think that's phenomenal. That's much better than I was expecting.
Oh, for sure.
The speed's not where you thought it was going to be right after 47 stolen bases last
year.
Yeah,
but you're not going
to be mad about it.
He's at 14 stolen bases, right?
Yeah. But caught 9 times.
I did see that.
Yeah.
Caught a lot of times. I don't know what
that's a little scary, right?
Do you think that's teams adjusting last year? Obviously, we saw the pop with the stolen bases with the new rules. Maybe teams are adjusting a little bit. You would assume it happens all in every sport. Teams adjust.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it takes, there's that initial hit from one side and then there's a counter. So I guess this is the team's counter now.
Yeah, that's the only thing I could think of. But you would hope that, again, he's not a huge burner, so maybe it's not going to stick. But you'd hope Washington will figure out a way to bring his speed and make it more useful rather than, 14 steals with 9 caught is not a good number.
Well, another
So
bat in the lineup could help him play even
James
better.
Wood, baby, here
There
we
you go. We
go.
brought it full
Oh,
circle.
full circle. I love it.
All right. So that's going to do it for us. Until next time, like, subscribe, follow us on all social platforms so you can get as much content from us as possible. We break these full episodes up into little bite-sized pieces for you to consume on social, on YouTube, everywhere. So until next time, like, subscribe, share the podcast, and I will see you on Wednesday.